The numbers have far exceeded any expectations, and the available services and funding to respond to those needs are completely inadequate. Across health, shelter, response services for survivors of violence, in everything, water, sanitation. Within any conflict or displacement, women and children tend to be the most vulnerable. With the Syria crisis, we're seeing at least 75% of those coming in are women and children. Many are coming without their husbands, without their brothers, which means that they don't have the normal protection they would usually have in Syria from their community and from their family, which makes them very vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. From the information we've been gathering through the services we offer, we know that for female-headed households, those that have come without their husbands, those young women who have come without their fathers, they're very vulnerable to violence and abuse. We're hearing many reports of early marriage, of women who have to engage in survival sex to meet their basic needs. The UN has just released a funding appeal for $5 billion to respond to the needs across the region. Currently, I think across all organisations, we're experiencing gaps in funding because the numbers of refugees that we're expected to serve are much more than originally anticipated. For IRC, we continue to source more funding for the programme we're doing, but in terms of actually reaching refugees, it's really challenging. They're scattered across 1,200 locations around the country. So for any of us, our catchment population is quite limited. The common findings across all of the assessments are that sexual violence, in particular rape, was one of the main reasons why many women and girls are fleeing, either the direct experience of it or the threat. When they come to Lebanon, unfortunately, the specialised services, the health services to respond to rape, and also the counselling that is required to help women and girls who have survived sexual violence recover aren't always available. That the information on the available services isn't widely known in the communities, and it makes it increasingly difficult to recover from the trauma because of that. Even when women and girls do come to Lebanon, that they're not always finding a safe haven, that there are gaps in basic service provision in terms of shelter, so you find many families living 2 or 3 in an apartment, and they're very limited privacy, and others are living in tented settlements, informal settlements, where security is not guaranteed, where access to really basic things like water and sanitation aren't widely available, which can place them at risk of violence. We've also been hearing reports of families having to marry off their daughters at a very young age in order to protect them from violence, and also many people have to pay rent for their apartments or for the settlements that they live on, and it's really, really difficult for women who are coming without their husbands to find that money. So I think that we desperately need much more funds to try and meet basic needs.